Hello and welcome to another SDA Q&A. Peter Dixon here, your host. Let me get my lighting switched on properly. It's lovely to have you with me today. Now, yes, there's a few questions flowing there in the comments. And the reason I'm kind of doing a commentary today is a bit of a filler before our bonus program, which will be on later today with Reinda Bruinsma. Let me get the info on that for you again. That will be later today in the USA, Tuesday over there, 8 p.m. In the Netherlands at 5 a.m. Here in Australia, in New South Wales times 3 p.m. West Australia 12 midday. New Zealand Wednesday 5 p.m. London 4 a.m. and the Vatican City 5 a.m. So that's Reinda Bruinsma coming up later today. But as I said, I wanted to do a program today for two reasons. One, wow, what an incredible time in history we're living in, going through. And I wondered, will this Trump-Harris election divide the SDA church? And I'm just going to bring up the screen there where I've just got some viewing material for us to watch. Quickly before that, though, the second reason I'm doing the show today is that from now on, because of all the daylight saving shifts in Europe, USA, and here in Australia, we will be going live Pacific time, 5:30 p.m. So that's Pacific time, 5:30, Mountain time, 6:30, Central time, 7:30, and the Eastern part of USA will be 8:30, so a little bit earlier for you guys, which is great. And here in Australia, as usual, 12:30 will be our streaming time, New South Wales time. So I wanted to just kind of ease into that big transition by doing a commentary on this election, watching some of it. And as I said, let's bring in a little bit now, just to see what's going on. I don't really want it to be we all bash each other and say, well, I believe this and I'm voting for that and this person, that person. And please don't bring in any previous leaders' names that were, shall we say, quite evil, because YouTube and Facebook will actually mute the channel. I may even get muted just simply by having footage going on as well. But hey, we're just here doing this for educational purposes. So hopefully we will be fine. We won't cross over there now because there'll be music playing. However, I've got a couple of channels open. We'll go to the Australian one and just see what the commentary is over there. Give me 1 minute to set that up. And we'll go and see what they're talking about here in Australia on the TV. And yeah, we're just going to have a discussion. Talk about how you feel this election will affect the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm a former Adventist looking in from the outside. Some of you are former, some of you are right in, some of you are heritage Adventists, gospel Adventists. You know, there's so many different kinds of Adventists. But yeah, we don't want the political angst. That's right, Andy Mack. We just want your thoughts, because I did notice with the vax and the anti-vax kind of warring sides, that has affected the Adventist Church big time, almost as big a split potentially coming in the Adventist Church as there was back in 1980 with Glacier View. So let's have a look again here. I wish I could just flick easily between these channels, but yeah, I can't at the moment. So we'll go and see what they're saying on the Australian news, which should be unbiased, but we'll see. Let's watch for a little while. In the meantime, please share your comments, and I'll be reading them out as well. And we'll go for an hour or so. And then later this afternoon, don't forget, or later this evening or early this morning, depending where you are in the world, we've got Reinda Bruinsma. It's going to be a fascinating interview. Okay, here we go with the Australian ABC News.
Information to our same communities, so that you begin to distance yourself, and you're just like, I'm not that immigrant. I'm not that bad immigrant that Donald Trump talks about. So therefore, I'm going to be with Donald Trump. And it gets very, very confusing. And that's why the Latino vote is so fascinating to watch today and over the next several days.
Seen poll after poll showing that the Latino vote for Donald Trump has been going up in 2016 and again in 2020.
No, New Yorkers, we like to base our stuff in real life, right? So many New Yorkers saw through Donald Trump's claim that he was a good businessman. Of course, he has had at least 4 bankruptcies, probably more. And so the question as to whether or not he's a good businessman really should be on the table. One of the core pieces of mis and disinformation that has been pushed in the Latino community in Spanish is that he is a successful businessman and that he will know how to create an even better economy. I was speaking to an economist who said, if Latinos think that this is a bad economy right now, they have to be prepared because, in fact, this is a pretty strong economy right now, strong employment, and more than enough jobs, actually, for everyone. But the push has been to say that Donald Trump is a good businessman and will do good for the American economy.
You can see the concern about immigration in the way Democrats have shaped their policy on that front. They're pledging more Border Patrol agents, a higher bar for seeking asylum. What do you think about the way Democrats have responded to that concern in the community about immigration?
Look, one of the things that we have heard now from Latino voters who might have been Democrat but have turned away from the Democratic Party is because of a sense of broken promises. And so this would have been the perfect moment.
Okay, we're going to leave that. I'm wanting to really have reports on the stats that are coming through. We can see down the bottom there, 101 of the electoral college going to Trump and 71 to Harris. So we'll come back to that when I can see on the screen that it's talking about. What's it going here?
For the Democratic Party and the Democratic candidate, Vice President.
When I see that the stats are up, and I'll quickly jump to it this time so I don't miss it. Let's look at some of the comments here. And Andy Mack writes, the average Joe Blow Adventist doesn't know anything what is happening in the church. That's probably true. And Test the Prophet, good to have you on the program, Test the Prophet. Go and check out his channel. It's amazing. Dixon Schwarzenegger for 2028. Let's make it happen. Oh, dear. Yeah, I love it. Fred Simmons or Simons writes, Ellen White was equal opportunity demonizer. She went after everybody. Today's SDA's institutions are so rooted in the stock market that they are afraid to rock the Republican boat. Interesting thought. And George, how are you, George? George says he's going to watch both programs today. I love it. And Heretic Adventists. Now, this is interesting. Hi, Rochelle. Good to have you here. This is my first year voting as a non-SDA. I am actually kind of excited. It's the first time I'm voting based on what I believe is best for the country rather than what is best for the SDA church. Now, Rochelle, so it's Tuesday over there right now. Tuesday in the evening, I guess coming up to 6 o'clock. Has the voting closed in your town? Have you voted already today? I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask who you voted for at all, but just wondering if you have voted. George writes, now we've got to be careful using these words here, George, because I've had a couple of comments already taken down in the promo post. A certain platform has algorithms to pick up these words. So the selection is between democracy and that word. Americans are so ignorant. I am American. But for Harris. Thank you, George. And Andy says to Rochelle, nice. Good on you, Rochelle. And we've got our viewers over there watching, of course, on Facebook. Don't forget, Facebook members, we're nearly at 3,000 members, which is very exciting. But don't forget, if you want to have your comments brought onto the screen, go and find SDA Q&A page. And if you comment there, I can bring it on to the actual screen. Okay, I'm going to look at another couple of channels that I have here and see. There's an acceptance speech going on there by Mike Braun, is it? Governor of Indiana. So am I right? They're bringing in the voting in governors as well at the moment. So I don't know. Someone in the US, can you let me know? Because I'm seeing that some governors are Democrat and some are actual Republican, and they're bringing up whether they're accepting whether they are in or not. So if someone could let me know also about that. Yeah, still on my channels, there's a bit about the governors, and we've got our Australian one here that they're just talking commentary at the moment. So hopefully any minute we're going to have someone at the stats board, and I'll quickly cross to it because that's what I'm really interested in following right now. So yeah, those watching, just let me know your thoughts on if this election will affect the Adventist Church. I have a stat I'm going to bring up a little bit later when I find it, that has been a survey with the Adventist, I think the USA audience, and it talks about, it gives insights into who Adventists vote for. So let's check that out very soon. In the meantime, Rochelle, WA State has mail-in ballots. I voted a few weeks ago. Polls are still open, but closing soon. Yeah, that's why I wanted to go live now, because I think it's such a interesting time. And of course, it may be hours before we know. We might have to come back on later tonight. Trail Rider, hey, Marie, I think it is. What frustrates me is the Adventists think it's wrong to vote. Interesting. And that somehow you personally will be held responsible for anything that person would do while in office. That is absurd. Barry says, I don't know how it works over there. And this is interesting. Rochelle writes, I don't want to start any arguments by sharing who I voted for, but I will say I found myself voting mostly for the opposite party that I would have voted for when I was an Adventist. Did this happen to anyone else? She asks. That's a very interesting thing. I wonder if you leave the church, you sometimes switch your political party leaning. Rodrigo, good to have you watching the program. Adventist pastors are crazy for Trump because they bet he will implement the Sunday law. In Brazil, they're really praying for that. They're praying for the Sunday law. We're going to be chatting about the Sunday law with Rainda Bruinsma later this afternoon, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Australia. Yeah. And Cindy Lou is here. Hi, Cindy. Hello, y'all, she says. Or yellow all. Barb T is watching. Good to see you, Barb. And I think Andy makes a really valid point here. This election will affect the world. I think that is very true. So we're just having a good chat here today, talking about the election. And yeah, let's hope that very soon some data comes on to the screen that I can bring up and we can chat about. Now, while we're waiting, next week, Nathan Brown will be on the show next Wednesday, 12:30 my time, which is 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So our Wednesday, USA Tuesday, 5:30 p.m., our Wednesday at 12:30. He's literally just written to me. He's the editor of Signs magazine. I got that right, Nathan, if you're watching. And he's going to be my guest next week. Coming up this week, by the way, while I've got your attention, we've got Giles James. Some of you have seen him in the comments. Jimmy James, he'll be on tomorrow at this time. And our gospel speaker for this week is Tyler Morgan. Okay, are they still talking? Oh, here we go. I'm just going to quickly cross over. And I think we've got some commentary coming through.
Before that scandal came out, once the scandal came out, he stopped being invited to Trump events when he was in that state. Mark Robinson's campaign basically floundered at that point. North Carolina, let's pull up some of these results.
Okay,
and let's zoom in so that we can see how this thing played out. Josh Stein, he's the AG in the state. He will be the next governor. He's going to be succeeding Governor Roy Cooper, who was term limited. So Josh Stein going to be moving into the governor's mansion there. He won by a margin of about
blue and red coming into play.
North Carolina, that's a fascinating one. I want to keep it moving here because on this map too, Andrew, again, North Carolina, we kind of expected that to fall the way that it fell. New Hampshire, that's something I want to focus in on. That's the only real toss-up gubernatorial race that we were following. 32% of the votes counted so far, and Kelly Ayotte, the Republican, so far has exactly a 2-point lead over Joyce.
Yeah, okay. They're talking about the governors again now. So we'll zoom back in there later. Let's see what more you guys have to say. Brendan Valiant writes MAGA. And Deanna. Hey Deanna, good to have you watching today. Writes, I don't see how any Christian can support Trump. The Trump-Harris, I was going to say ticket, but the situation, this election, is certainly polarized people. The world seems so polarized. Anyone watching that is an Adventist, do you guys think that this is an indication of the end of time? Is the Trump-Harris polarity, the Republican, Democrat, Russia, Ukraine, what's happening there in the Middle East, what's happening over there as well? Is this for Adventists a sign of the times? I'd love to hear what you think there. And Cindy Lou is commenting on yeah, I said it might be a few hours. Yeah, I think you're right, days. Adventists vote for whoever they think is less likely to pass the Sunday law. And yes, I'd like some more thoughts on Ben Carson. Barry writes, I think Ben Carson likes Trump. That is very true. He's a Republican and a Seventh-day Adventist and ran for president last time. So, and Handy Mac writes, the world is ending, no need to vote. And Cindy Lou writes, whoever does not vote has no right to, what is that word? Kvetch results? Whinge, I guess. And Andy Mack, since leaving the church, it hasn't changed her political leaning, but it's no longer coloured by conspiracy theories. And Cindy Lou writes, democracy stands or crumbles tonight. Ray writes, you are not a Christian if you support a reprobate. It's a really interesting test for those of us here in SDA&A because I'm sensing things are a little bit divided. So we can use this opportunity to go, hey, we're polarized perhaps in our opinions, but can we still find common ground in the gospel in discussions about Adventism here in SDA Q&A? Fred Simmons, I keep forgetting Fred, you did tell me once. Simmons. Adventists as a bloc almost all do not vote for President John Kennedy because him being Catholic. I like to think they've outgrown that mindset in some quarters. And this outgrowing of that mindset that you speak of there, Fred, I will be discussing in my interview today with Reinda Brew-Insma. And wow, I cannot wait for that discussion. He was essentially cancelled from speaking at Loma Linda on that topic of the Sunday law and Catholics, and should we offer a little bit more grace and friendship to them now? Have times changed? He was suggesting they have, and yet, he was not allowed to speak on Adventist soil because he was kind of presenting a new view. Just checking again if anything is coming across. Let's go to the Australian channel because I don't think anything's coming through. Let's see what this guy's talking about.
I hope you take pride in this moment. Whoever says young people don't care about politics haven't met the young people that are the engine powering campaigns all over this nation. And to our supporters, look what we've accomplished. Look what we've been able to do. By most standards of what is possible, this moment right now should not be occurring.
So again,
a year ago, 6 years ago, few believed we could show that what we could accomplish. That we showed that politics isn't some...
Yep, again, at midday, as I was setting everything up to come on, there was so many stats had come out because of the exit polls, and now they've just got people chatting. So we'll be patient. I'm enjoying reading the comments and hearing what you guys have got to say. Let's check out the Aussie channel and see. Okay, the Australian channel is fairly biased towards Harris, just letting you guys know.
Important it is. If you go to the United States now, as I have many times this year, you notice that the prices are higher.
It's so much higher.
So much higher.
It's dramatic what's happened since COVID.
Exactly.
And basic items, groceries, cans of things have doubled, trebled, quadrupled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a problem for the Democratic candidate. There's no question about it. She's tied to Biden. There's the interview in which she said, I really can't think of anything different that I would do from the president, which will haunt her and has haunted her. That was a kind of a throwaway comment on The View on a popular show. But that has been one of the key messages that Donald Trump has been driving home. And when you have 3 out of 4 Americans saying that they're not happy with the direction of the economy and of the country and prices like you have, that's going to be a factor in this election.
Donald Trump always begins his stump speech by asking that Reagan question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? It always tends to get drowned out by the crazy stuff, the Hannibal Lecter stuff and all the nonsense. But it's that question that obviously Americans themselves are asking, and there's a lot of nostalgia for the Trump economy, when prices were a lot lower, when mortgage rates were significantly lower. And if you're looking for reasons why he is still popular, that's one of the reasons. A lot of people think that he will...
And again, that's back to commentary, not stats. Nikki Carlton writes, young people will change this election. Men are not turning out as much as women also. And she adds, Trump will probably let Elon Musk run some government departments. Excuse me. Andy Mack writes, my son was born in America. He is there, voted, and working for one of the political parties. Barb writes, my daughter feels as it's end of times. I've adjusted my outlook. Rochelle writes, you can bet Doug Batchelor will use it to make a video about the end of time. Yeah, probably. Oh, dear. And Deanna writes, I based my comment on when Trump said he never asked God for forgiveness. He said he left God out of that. He seems to have become a little bit more God-focused in recent times, hasn't he? Yeah, Cindy says no one can judge another person's religious stance or lack thereof. Oh, hang on. Looks like we've got something going on here. I'll jump across and just listen.
Two major party candidates, 10% of the vote counted. I just want you to disregard those numbers because almost more than half of what we got is actually from this one county, Oakland County, which is in the sort of outer suburbs of the city of Detroit. Kamala Harris, and the reason we're looking at it is because we actually are getting a decent mix of vote types here. We're getting both early votes, absent votes, and election day votes. Kamala Harris is winning that with a margin of 14.4%. He was the result in that county 4 years ago. Biden won it by 14.1%. So on the count that we've got, which is just under half the vote, 40% of the vote or so, Kamala Harris is holding ground with where Joe Biden was, but so far in what we've seen, not improving a whole lot there. This race, I mean, we've been saying for some days that the state of the entire race, when you look at what the polls were suggesting, you had these three plausible universes, a polling miss in Donald Trump's favour that would see him win relatively easily, a polling miss in Kamala Harris's favour that would see her winning relatively easily, and then this one in the middle that's a sort of state-by-state battle where things are looking very close. And the figures we're seeing at the moment are suggesting we're in that middle universe rather than one of those landslide ones. With the early figures, with lots of states still yet to report anything at all, that's what the kind of broad picture of what we're seeing is. And that's notwithstanding some, frankly, quite stunning results. Look at Florida again, 93% of the vote has been counted. We've got so much of that vote in. These are the results in 2020. I just want to talk about the 2024. I want to talk about the 2020 results for a second and just show you. This is the city of Miami and sort of the urban fringes of Miami, the city of Tampa. Osceola County, which is I'll say it again, the county with the highest proportion of Puerto Ricans living in anywhere in the country. The city of Jacksonville, they were all blue 4 years ago. Here's this year's result. They've all turned red. That is a sign of how far Florida has shifted in the last 4 years, but over some period of years as well, that we're seeing results like that, a shift toward Donald Trump in cities, in urban areas in Florida, even as other battleground states are looking, considerably closer.
Casey, thank you. We've got correspondents at Trump and Harris headquarters for us during the day today. Let's go to Trump HQ first. Jade McMillan is at Palm Beach in Florida. Jade, what's happening where you are?
Well, this is where the Trump campaign is holding its election night watch party. We have seen Donald Trump supporters coming into this venue, many of them addressed in those signature Make America Great Again caps. Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, is also said to be inside. The former president himself, as far as we know, is still some way away from here at his Mar-a-Lago residence. He was out at a polling place near his home earlier today. He cast his ballot in person alongside his wife Melania. He was certainly projecting confidence at that stage of the day. It's something that's been echoed by one of his senior advisors here in West Palm Beach, Corey Lewandowski. He has said that the former president is feeling great about his prospects, that he believes momentum is on his side. But Donald Trump, for now, really sticking to social media. He has urged Republicans who are in states where the polls haven't haven't yet closed. People who are still lined up at some of these very long lines at polling centres to stay the course.
Our Republicans, we're doing really well. If you're in line, stay in line. Don't let them take you off that line. Vote. Stay on the line. They can't do anything about it. And vote. We're going to win it big. Thank you.
Now, Jade, there had been a lot of concern about what would happen if Donald Trump were to lose. What's the latest?
Yeah, well, it was on election night 4 years ago that he prematurely claimed victory. He has ever since then continued to falsely assert that that election was stolen from him. And we'd really seen him in the final days of this campaign starting to ramp up rhetoric around cheating. He has argued that, you know, perhaps the
Oh, classic. I've just been talking for a minute without my mic on. Anyway, I didn't say anything interesting. No one told me in the comments. Okay, I'm just putting a link in to the YouTube channel there. If anyone wants to come on the show with me and comment, and I'm about to just put it into the Facebook group as well. If you'd like to come on and chat with me for 5 or 10 minutes, if you'd like to come on, just click that link and I'll see you in the waiting room and I can bring you on. And of course, anytime, looks like we might have a little bit of stat action on the other channel that I'm watching. Let's see if we can bring that on and let's see if he is talking about that.
Of these states that we expect to go red, they're being called as soon as the polls are closing because the Associated Press knows that these are going to be reliably red. They're going to be dominated, really, by Republican voters. We see Texas going red, Oklahoma, Georgia, and let me just say that none of the battleground states have been called so far. Let's talk about Nebraska, because Nebraska is interesting. It's these little tiny dots here off to the corner. You see Nebraska has District 1, 2, and 3. Maine has a similar dynamic where their electoral votes, 2 of them go to the state at large, and then both of their congressional districts each get 1 congressional vote each. So those 2 states, they operate a little bit differently than the rest of them. Ohio going red, and let's zoom in here because Ohio's interesting, Andrew. I mean, we've been following elections. Ohio used to be that prototypical swing state. Not anymore. Look at the results. The AP, with just over 50% of the vote tallied, says that Trump's going to take this state with about a 9-point lead. That's just with over 50% of the vote counted. Ohio's interesting, not so much because of the presidency. We expected it to go that way. Let's switch over to our Senate map here, and let's look at how Sherrod Brown and Bernie Moreno's race is going. So this is fascinating because Moreno does have the edge over the incumbent Democrat, Sherrod Brown, right now, but you see the difference. There's a lot less room between these 2 candidates than there was between Harris and Trump. Trump had a much more commanding lead at...
Okay, so we're going to bring Stephen Beagles here. He's joined us for 5 or so minutes. And anyone else want to join? I've put the link there in the YouTube comments. If you scroll back up, you'll see it. And also in Facebook, you'll see it if you scroll back up, the link to come and join me. But let's welcome everybody. Say hi to Mr. Stephen Beagles. How are you, Stephen?
Doing well, Peter. How are you?
I am good, mate. Good to see you in the flesh.
Oh, thank you very much. From San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio. Now, tell us a little bit about your thoughts. You mentioned in the comments there that Trump has 160 electoral votes and Harris has 30. I want you to talk on two things. I think that number has changed now since you wrote that, but Trump is in the lead. But I think you probably agree with me. It's too early to call at this stage. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that, and then tell us some thoughts on how it's going in Texas. And then tell us Aussies a little bit about the Electoral College and the swing states. There's a lot of things there for you to remember.
My personal political views, I tend to be very moderate, so I'm really not all that conservative. I'm not all that liberal. But here in Texas, we are a red state, which means that we tend to vote more conservative. That means the Republicans usually win the elections over here. And Texas has a lot of electoral votes. If we get the popular vote for the Republicans, then the Republicans would get the electoral votes. I think we have 30 of them because we're such a big state. And every state has different electoral votes depending on how large they are and what their populations are. And if the popular vote goes towards one candidate in that state, then the electoral votes will normally go to that candidate. And for the presidential elections, we need 270 votes to win the election. And it looks like Trump's leading right now. But there's still a lot of polls that are open. And so it could very well swing back to Kamala. We don't know yet. Either way, we'll have to live with the results. I'm not too happy about either candidate, but they all have their strengths and weaknesses. But I'm just leaving it in God's hands, and whatever His will is, we'll have to live with it.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for your thoughts there. If I'm looking at what I see as a current electoral college list, it's 177 to Trump and 99 to Harris at the moment. Does that sound right on your screen?
That sounds about right. They're all projections right now because they're all based on polling data, and they have to wait until all the polls close and all the votes are counted. But they can generally tell statistically early on who's going to win that state. So right now, what you're seeing are projections, but the votes still have to be counted and certified.
Right, yes. So in your opinion, how long will that be? Are we likely to know? So your time right now must be your central time, are you?
Yeah, I'm 8:20 Central Standard Time.
So do you think there'll be an answer, by morning? Or do you think it's going to be a little bit longer than that?
I hope
morning your time.
But the way the polls looked ahead of the election is that it was pretty evenly split 50-50 between Trump and Harris. So it's kind of it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. It seems like the United States is divided politically down the center, 50% more conservative, 50% more liberal. But I think right now you're seeing a lot of the younger voters coming out, and they're starting to tilt towards the conservative side. And a lot of them aren't voting for the person as much as they're voting for their political issue.
Right.
Abortion is a big thing right now. Also the state of the democracy. People are worried that the Constitution is not being followed right now by the current administration. And there's the economy that we're having to look at. It seems like the Trump economy was doing better than the Biden economy was. So it all depends on the individual voter. Some people are very upset over the immigration policies. So we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not a prophet. I really don't like making predictions. I hope we do get a result tonight. But what I expect is for it to be too close to call. and that there's going to be some challenges about voter fraud and cheating and the whole nine yards. So we might not find out for a month or so.
Yeah, wow. Do you think so? It's sounding like you're pretty centrist. Could go either way. Does it concern you from an Adventist perspective if Trump got in, or if Harris got in? Do either of them coming into power affect any of the prophecies within Adventism, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, right now, Trump's already been president once, and we saw how he acted while he was in office. And things tended to be very, almost status quo for him. He tried to make a lot of changes, but the Congress was holding him in check a lot of the time. And Miss Harris, she's been vice president, but she hasn't really been out front. So it'll be interesting to see how she acts as president if she makes it in. But what I expect is that the closer we get to the end times, things will be getting worse for our economy, and we're going to head into a tribulation period, economically and also spiritually. But as of right now, I don't see any really major red flags.
Right. Look, thanks for your thoughts there, Stephen. I'll put you back in the green room, but just hang around in there, and I can bring you back in later if you're still around. And anyone else that's watching, if you want to come on and just share some thoughts and ideas like Stephen did, you're more than welcome. But thanks very much for those thoughts, Stephen, and we'll get you back on the show again. There's lots of things to chat about regarding heritage Adventism and gospel Adventism, or as you say, legal Adventists and law Adventists and
Law
gospel Adventists.
Adventists versus gospel Adventists, and
Yeah.
that's my major concern in the church right now is who's going to be in charge of the administration. That's going to be very, very important during the next general conference session. And I really hope that the gospel Adventists will pick up the leadership in the next vote.
I'm toying with the idea of coming over next year to the GC session and inviting as many SDA Q&A members to come, and we'll book a big hotel or something and hang out.
All right.
Okay, mate. Well, I'll put you in the green room, so I think you can still watch the show from there. And
what I'm gonna do is I have to leave right now. I have my daughter's asking for my attention, so
perfect timing.
I'll pick you up on the other side.
Perfect timing. Talk soon, Stephen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen
Bye-bye.
Beagles there, who has got a website, Gospel Adventist, and you can go and check him out there. Test the Prophet was watching earlier. If you get a chance, make sure you go and look at his channel. It's incredible. Test the Prophet. Okay, let's. There's on the Aussie channel we've got Malcolm Turnbull. He's an Australian politician. Let's see what he's got to say. He's always quite an interesting person to listen to. Let's see if he's got some interesting things to say.
Yeah, thanks, David. Good to see you. Back to those numbers to see if we do get a result in the coming hours. Back to the election centre.
Let's go to Oklahoma now. We're joined by Graham Lee Brewer, a reporter in the Associated Press's race and ethnicity team, who's also a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. Great to talk to you here in Australia.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
And I don't want to cut him off, but isn't that funny? I'm just missing the things that are on that I wanted to see. But anyway, that's all right. That's the fun of live TV. And look, this whole show might be taken down because I've got so much potential copyright material out there. And let's see, Adrian has just written to me the latest update. And it says, this is interesting. So the Electoral College 168 and Harris 34. Okay, that is interesting because on the Aussie site, It's not saying that. It's I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, it's saying down the bottom here you can see 99 to 177. I'm not sure what's going on there. It just shows that wherever you go to find the information, it's not quite all syncing up just yet. So we'll keep an eye there on the Australian commentary on it. And the reason I'm going to Australia and Fox is the other one, which people probably may not like that I'm doing that. But they have the least amount of ads, and ads will definitely shut down my talk today. So again, those who would like to come on. Nikki, would you like to come on and share some of your thoughts? Others that are watching, Cindy Lou, Fred Simmons, anyone that would like to come on, come and click the link. If you look up there, it's in the YouTube comments and it's also over on the Facebook ones. Come and join us just like Stephen did. Now, Andy Mack writes, Bitcoin is up, so I'm happy. After the result, we'll see. Let's just check on the Australian stock market and see if that is doing anything. Oh, it's up as well. Wow. Okay, boy, it's up everything. Interesting. A couple of the health medical ones are down a bit, but everything's up. A lot of people have suggested a confidence in Trump's business skills, and those who know anything about the stock market know that it's often based on confidence, not on the facts. So let's have a look. We've got Fred has written, if Trump wins, it will usher in exactly what Ellen White described as an evangelical Christian nationalist reign. I've no doubt she was in the ballpark with these predictions happening. Cindy Lou writes, think about it. And I cut off your comment before. Sorry, Cindy Lou. I was halfway reading it, saw some stats, jumped across, and yours was gone by then. Sorry about that. Think about it, folks. For all intents and purposes, Biden was ousted out of office in a coup. You are seeing peeps voting for Kamala, not because she is good, but because she is not Trump. Okay. How does that all tie in, do you think, with its effect on Adventism? I'm trying to find the stats someone sent me earlier on what Adventists vote for. Malcolm says probably going to take several weeks of riots before the voting comes out. Rochelle writes, I think most Americans find that a single party doesn't represent every issue exactly the way they like. I leaned more to one side than the other, but at local levels I voted for both sides. Interesting. Random T Chance writes, I vote for the party that protects, having trouble with my speech today, unborn babies. And Ray writes, in my comment about Stephen and Gospel Adventists, no such thing as a Gospel Adventist. Oh dear. And it says here, Wisconsin fell to Trump. I'm going to do a program soon on this idea of Gospel Adventist and Heritage Adventists, where I think they have, and former Adventists who believe in the gospel. I think those who believe in the Bible gospel and those who believe in the heritage traditional Adventist view are following two different Jesuses. literally two different people that are doing two different things. And of course they can't, that's impossible. And the gospel Adventists seem to be in the middle there, unsure of which to follow. This is interesting. Cindy writes, North Korea has arms on the Russian border now. Is Miss H qualified to handle that? And Barb T says, I'm game for the GC thing. And Andy Mack says yes as well. Hey, let's go back to the Aussie one. I think we've got some stats coming on. I'll get the volume up there.
Indeed, because we've been looking at how different demographics are telling this survey how they plan to, or how they in fact did vote. First by gender.
It's not really what I was after,
The
but
Vote
it's
survey is suggesting that Donald Trump is winning men by 8 points. And importantly, that is a shift toward Donald Trump from the last election of 3 percentage points.
Though, yeah,
Kamala Harris is winning women by 9 percentage points, and that again is a shift toward Donald Trump of 3 percentage points.
Boy,
by age, some very interesting figures. 18 to 29-year-olds are in majority voting for Kamala Harris, but by much smaller margins than 4 years ago, according to this survey. 17-point shift toward Donald Trump. A smaller shift among 30 to 44-year-olds, a 6-point shift toward Donald Trump. There. Among different groups of different race and ethnicity, white voters, a very small shift toward Kamala Harris, but in majority voting for Donald Trump. But then African-American voters, black voters, Latino voters and Hispanic voters all swinging toward Donald Trump. The picture this survey is painting us is that Donald Trump has made significant inroads into some of those communities, young voters and communities of colour as well. And just quickly, we can also look at education figures. Donald Trump winning non-college educated men as he did 4 years ago, but winning them by a greater margin. Also non-college educated women and a shift toward Donald Trump among college educated women in this survey. And that is perhaps the opposite of what some people had been suggesting. Now, despite all of that, there was a lot of red. There are a lot of shifts towards red in demographic figures. We are still watching the figures themselves, the votes themselves come in. It is looking like a very close race in some of these states. We'll give you an update on some of them later. We're seeing this mixed picture of turnout as well. And as we know, in American elections, turnout can be critical. You can win groups by massive margins, but it doesn't matter so much if they're not even turning up to vote. So that's the sort of complicated picture that we're sifting through at the moment. But boy, Jeremy, Bridget, there's some interesting numbers.
Casey, indeed. Julia, what do you make?
So yeah, it is very fascinating. We're just going to quickly go to the other channel I'm watching because I think they're talking about this. Or have I just missed them again?
Whatever Austin just said there, kind of giving the roundup of the battleground states, can we glean anything from them, from the results coming in right now?
Yeah, and super helpful there. Look, the numbers that we are seeing right now from Georgia and North Carolina really seem to show him running away with it down in the Sun Belt, okay, especially in Georgia, all right? Now, this is very tentative, but some of the early exit polls we have seen have shown Trump performing, a lot more men voters showing up and supporting Trump, all right? And that's a really big dynamic. We've talked a lot about women voters with Harris, all right? But up in the Rust Belt, Wisconsin, Michigan, all right, Pennsylvania.
Boy, that's some interesting stats coming through there, particularly that the women vote is up for Trump. Now, some comments about GC next year. I've kind of been serious joking, but a lot of people have written to me and said, yeah, let's do it. So I asked Alexander Carpenter to send where their Airbnb is, and we might try and stay near the Spectrum crowd and book a place. So maybe we can do it. If you're interested, let me know. Keep it in my mind. Cindy Lou Right. Oops, my phone alarm just went off that it was time for Peter. And yes, this is normally the time in the States that we go live, but we have changed it because you guys having daylight saving shifted actually affords us the opportunity to bring the show a bit earlier for our friends over there in the Eastern time zone. So our new time slot for America, USA, is Pacific time 5:30 p.m., Mountain 6:30 p.m., Central 7:30 p.m., and Eastern 8:30 p.m. Here in Australia, we will still be 12:30. And don't forget my very special guest coming up in only just over an hour, actually, hour and a half, is Reinder Bruinsma. Okay, back to this guy. He's talking about stats.
So far that state is leaning red. So Montana, that's going to be an interesting to glean from once we start getting results in. But Tom, and this is something that we're going to be focusing on a lot, is Ohio. Many thought that the three-term incumbent senator there, Sherrod Brown, he has been elected in favorable Democratic years. I believe the first time he was elected was in light of the war that was back in 2006. That was a favorable year for Democrats. 6 years later, that was an Obama year. That was another favorable year for Democrats. The last time he was up for election was in the midterm after Trump was elected. There was a blue wave there. Is this the toughest challenge yet and the most polarizing race we've seen Sherrod Brown participate in so far?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, look, I was talking with one of my longtime Republican sources about this a couple days ago, and we're going to know a lot after we see all the tallies. But the Democrats still have a problem up in the Rust Belt with working class voters. Okay. And, you know, big.
In some ways, it's a bit early to be expecting too many things happening with the results of the Electoral College, to have them talking a lot about it. But as I said, I'm enjoying the comments and hearing what you guys have to say. Don't forget, if you'd like to join and come and have a chat with me right now, I've just put in the link once more into our YouTube channel, and I'm about to click it one more time over there on Facebook. Come on the show and join me. Let's have a chat together and share your thoughts on this very interesting topic. Just 5 minutes or so. Come on and share your thoughts with me. We've just got here that Trump wins Wyoming, Louisiana, and Nebraska. Are any of those swing states? I know there's 7 very important swing states. So I wonder if any of them have gone yet. Let's see what the Australian channel is saying right now about this.
Hearing at the moment. I think that's, that isn't a joyous crowd right now, is it?
It's a tense one for sure.
We'll check in with the Republican side shortly. We're joined by Mike McMullen in Pennsylvania, Republican delegate who's spending election night in Pennsylvania.
This might be interesting. Let's see what they're saying there. That's one of the most important states.
Blackwell. Good evening, my end. Good afternoon on your end.
You were with Mr. Trump on the day of the attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania. What impact do you think that moment had on the campaign and the results that we're seeing coming through now?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you very much for having me this evening and the afternoon on your end. That's a great question. That impact, I was there. As we talked before, I was 20 feet from when it happened. I was a delegate to the national convention the next day. That just fired up the base. As anybody who has seen the video, when the president got up and he raised his fist and fight, 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 that campaign commercial has transcended, has fired up the base, and the road to the White House is going to go through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania this evening.
It seems that it's fired up more than the base.
Well, absolutely. I mean, what happened on July 13th and several weeks after that and into August, potentially the other assassination attempt when he was down in Mar-a-Lago golfing, that's just wrong. It's evil. It's not acceptable. And that's fired up a lot of people. We had, in my county today, we had almost 85% turnout. There's record turnout across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I agree. Any kind of violence is disgusting. And Rochelle, I think, agrees. She writes, I just hope that whatever way this election goes, the result won't be violent demonstrations. What are the rest of you? What are your thoughts on that, about if there will be that kind of violent response or not? Jennifer joins us. Good idea to have this conversation. I just got here. Welcome, Jennifer. Good to have you here. And yeah, I think it's an important conversation as well. One of the things that really intrigues me is this notion of the community that we're building inside SDA&A that I know for sure has Trump supporters, Harris supporters, poles apart. There's heritage Adventists and gospel Adventists and former Adventists, atheists and agnostics, all with polarized views. But I feel like there's a cluster of people within that broad membership that actually just like each other and are seeking common ground. And that's something I'd like to foster. That's something I think is important. And for me personally, as I've said many times, and I love doing our weekly gospel program that talks all about the gospel, incorporated Old Covenant, New Covenant, Genesis right through to Revelation. And I've said many times, for me personally, the most unifying content I've found is the teachings of Jesus in the four Gospels. That is something that atheists, really conservative Adventists, we can all kind of, find some common ground and agreement there. Let's go back to the Australian commentary.
Where can you gain a little bit? Where are you losing a little bit? Let's start in the outskirts of Atlanta, counties like Fayette County, where we have nearly all the vote in. Donald Trump is winning by 3.2 percentage points. This is not a massive county, but there are votes there. And remember, this was a margin of victory for Joe Biden of 11,779 votes 4 years ago. So every vote does matter. Donald Trump won by is leading by 3.2%. 4 years ago, he won by a few percentage points more, by nearly 7 percentage points. Look over next door, Coweta County, he's winning there by 33.4%, a little bit lower than what he won by 4 years ago. The county of Spalding, he's winning by 18.7. Are we seeing a similar picture there? Yeah, a slightly smaller lead than what he won the county by there. So Kamala Harris is inching a little bit in the sort of southern, ex-urban areas of Atlanta, just south of Atlanta. Now, so jump back to the statewide figures again, reminding ourselves, Donald Trump is 5.4% ahead. There are, by our best estimates, about 1.2, 1.3 million votes left in this state, and about 2/3 of them are in a collection of Atlanta counties. Fulton County, 72% to 27.1. Kamala Harris is winning there by 45 points. Let me just see what that looked like 4 years ago. A little bit down, actually. A little bit down. That number has changed since I last looked at it. DeKalb County, Kamala Harris is winning by 65.7 points. A little bit down. So that's actually, these numbers are just changing as we've been looking at them. That's Fulton again. Gwinnett County, she's winning there by a smaller margin, but she has historically won there by a smaller margin. That's a little bit up, and there are actually quite a lot of votes still in Gwinnett County. That's what's making this picture quite messy.
Wow, yeah.
There are some models out there suggesting, well, Donald Trump has enough votes that are out here. Some of these counties are yet to report anything to stay over the line, but that gap does look like it will shrink as this count continues, and that's why this state remains in doubt. It is looking close. It is not looking like there was a miss there.
I think Georgia is a swing state, is that correct?
That one easily, and so that's why we're going to be waiting a bit longer for Georgia.
Nick, tell me what you're seeing there.
Georgia's leaning Trump. That's what I'm seeing there. And in fact, one of the sort of fairly reliable decision desks sort of online is actually already calling Georgia for Trump. And if that is true, I mean, you know, Georgia's going to be close.
Not as reliable as us.
Exactly.
How significant is that in the race in terms of
the reasons why it's so significant, as the studio falls around me, is maybe that's a sign. I don't know. The reason why that's significant is it really helps Kamala Harris to win Georgia because it means she can lose Michigan. And they're worried about their vulnerability in Michigan, partly for the reasons we're talking about, the Arab-American vote. If she loses Michigan, but she wins Georgia, she can afford to lose. She's got other options. And this is the thing, I mean, and this is what we see as these states start leaning. Your kind of path to the White House suddenly gets a lot narrower. And then suddenly it reaches the point where there isn't a path at all. And that's why they'll be worried about Georgia right now. Georgia was a kind of insurance policy for them. I mean, you know, Biden won it for the first time 4 years ago since Clinton years. 96, I think, was the last time it went down.
Okay, so we'll leave that there. Now I have Brendan has joined us over here. Brendan Valiant, he was on the show recently. And I'm inviting anyone that wants to join me to come on the program and have a bit of a chat. Ray, Cindy Lou, Random T Chance, Fred Simmons, Andy, anyone is welcome. The link is there in the comments. And we're going to bring in Brendan to see if he has some thoughts and comments just for 5 minutes, Brendan. Those watching, please welcome Brendan Valiant. How are you, Brendan?
Hey, Peter. How are you going?
Good, mate. I enjoyed our conversation of a couple of weeks ago now.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was really interesting. And so tell us, what do you think? Is Georgia a swing state? I think it was one of the 7, wasn't it?
It is one of the 7, and it's just a matter of time before they call that for Trump.
Yeah.
He's run away with it. Basically, I mean, Decision Desk has called North Carolina now. Florida is, you know, many points ahead of where other where even the best polling had it. I think it's 13 points with 95% in. Georgia is, I think, let me just have a quick look at Georgia.
While you're doing
following
that,
on Decision Desk.
Okay, look, while you're doing that, I just want to bring up Matthew Tull's comment. You might want to comment on it as well. I think we're seeing a red mirage. Democrats vote early and mail in. When those votes come in, we'll see a significant reversal back to the Dems, he's suggesting.
Yeah, look, there are states that are red mirage states and there are states that are blue mirage states. What that means is the first dump of votes, sometimes it's the early votes, sometimes it's election day votes. Republicans do well with election day. Dems do better with early and mail-in votes. So if the first count is so for example, I'll look at the map, the national map here. Iowa, for example, is currently blue, but that's going to change very quickly once election day results come in. Largely because Des Moines, Polk County in Des Moines is doing well. I mean, it's not doing as well as it did in 2020. Trump is running ahead of his, but it is a blue county, and so Polk County's come in. That none of the rurals have come in. Georgia, if I look at Georgia, the Atlanta area, Trump is overperforming his margins from he's overperforming where he was in 2020, and with Georgia, 79% of the vote is in. Trump is leading by 300,000 votes. There's just not the vote to make that up. Like in Chatham County over in Savannah, he's overperforming there. Augusta, he's overperforming in Columbus. So Georgia, there's just a matter of time before that one is called. North Carolina's been called. So once Georgia is called, he just needs one of the Rust Belt 3, and he's doing well. Like those are very slow to count. If I look at Wisconsin, he's got Waukesha County and Ozaukee County. Those two surround Milwaukee, and he's overperforming in both of those. They're called there's 3 counties there called the WOW counties: Washington, Ozaukee, and Waukesha. But it is showing blue at the moment because they've had a big dump in from Dane County, which is Madison, and Milwaukee County, which is Milwaukee itself. So that's That's what we're looking at. So really just focus on 3 states.
The 3 states,
Wisconsin and Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is probably going to be the big one people have got their eye on. Do you think the others will come in before that? And you're saying that even if the other 2 come, okay, right.
So
even if the other 2 come in before Pennsylvania, you say that's going to be it. Trump will be in.
Oh, look, if any of them is coming in very strong, it's over. Like, he only needs one of those. He doesn't even need Nevada, and he will win Arizona. Arizona's a lock-in because Arizona, in the early vote, now Republicans never lead the early vote, but in the early vote, he was leading by 100 and something thousand, and then today they had a strong turnout. It didn't cannibalize their election day vote. So Arizona, so in 2020, he lost the election by 40,000 votes across 3 states. He was down 11,000 in Arizona, about 11,000 again in Georgia, and 20,000 in Wisconsin. So if you see him overperform in those, basically in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, he's won the election. It looks like he's going to get very close, maybe even eke out a win in Nevada. He had 40,000 banked Republican votes over the Democrat before Election Day. And it looks like everywhere in Nevada, rurals have done great turnout. And Clark County, which is Las Vegas, has done, not very good turnout. What the Dems would have needed to pull that off.
It's interesting. I was watching this morning about 3 a.m. some of the build up towards it and some of the predictions, and the ABC, even though they're very biased against the Trump campaign, they're actually good at presenting the content with minimal ads. Because the data is the data, and the guy there, I forget his name, but he was saying that the starting point, because of the mail-ins, he said traditionally will show that Kamala is way higher than Trump at the start, and then he said after that, who knows? But when we watched right from the start, it was the other way around. Trump was higher up than Kamala, and I just thought that's interesting.
Yes,
because usually the Dems do show a higher result at the start.
That's true. So, I mean, like I said, there are some states that will be blue mirage, some states that will be red mirage, depending on how they count and how they process their vote. So, if I look at the state, like the country map, see, Iowa is still showing blue, like a blue trend. But again, that's Des Moines. If I look at Michigan,
it just says Trump wins Texas.
Yeah, that was.
That's
there was
40
no hope
vote.
of Texas going anything other than red. And look at the margins there. He won Texas by 8 points. 5 points. 2020. It was 8 points in 2016. And if you have a look at where it currently stands, he's got 1 million more votes than Kamala. He's 55.3 to 43.5. That's 12. That's a 12 percentage. So he's well overperforming his 2020, where he was in 2020. And you really want to be looking at these urban areas, because everything, exit polls and everything is telling us that the urban turnout was very down over 2022 and 2020. Because in 2022, it was also a year where there was expected to be a red wave against Biden, but it wasn't as much. They only just kept the House. So if you have a look at in Michigan, interestingly, the first dump in Wayne County is favoring Trump. It's less than 1%, but that never happens. Oakland, I mean, if he gets above 40% in Oakland, Trump gets above 40% in Oakland, which is a blue urban and suburban area around Detroit, then he's doing really well. He's currently at 43.6% in Oakland. Washtenaw, he's at 32%. That's another heavily urban area, but that's with 62% coming in. Grand Rapids, that's Kent County. He's doing 30%, but that's with 14% percentage of the votes coming in. That's probably early vote. So we'll see election day. Election day stronger for Republicans.
Now he's just got Missouri, and it looks like he's 188 to 99 now on the electoral. See, Matthew Tull writes, and I'll quickly bring in the Aussie one in a moment. He says, I disagree. This is to someone else's comment about exit polls. Many women, especially who are registered Republican, will vote blue. But even if they do, it seems like it's not making any difference at all. Let's just quickly bring in the volume
as we go through. And so the line,
see what he's got to
for all
say
intents and
here.
purposes,
This
is
is the Aussie guy I
226
was
Harris,
talking about.
219 Trump with those 7 battleground states. And that continues to be the picture that we're looking at. So despite the fact that Donald Trump has this early lead, it's because all of these states are coming in. We don't have California and its 54
Okay,
electoral
so this is what Matthew Tull was referring to.
That is where things are at.
Let's see what happens when California comes in, because that's about 58
Casey,
votes,
thank
I think.
We are
It
just
doesn't-
about
it doesn't
30
matter.
seconds away from taking
It doesn't matter how, like all of the other states, the only states that matter are the 3 in the roster.
Sorry, say that again. I just had to mute that. I couldn't hear you.
Like I don't go by the number that's ticking up on either side. That's going to swing definitely to the blue once
Soon,
your 3. You've got Washington, Oregon, and California. When they come in, they will come in blue. They're definitely going to add all their votes to the blue. Only focus on the 3 in the Rust Belt.
Yes. So
and if you
what
have
are
a
they
look,
again? What are the 3 again in the Rust Belt?
Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania.
Wisconsin,
They're your Rust Belt swing
Michigan,
states.
Pennsylvania. They're the ones up the top right of the map if you're looking down.
Wisconsin has just turned red, so they've had a big dump somewhere. If I go there, so rurals are coming in Wisconsin in a big way, and that's tipping it to red. Wait a second, am I in the right? Oh no, sorry, red for the Senate. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong window. Senate is doing well for Wisconsin. That means that the Republican Senate candidate, Hovde, is going, or Hovde, I don't know how to pronounce it, is running ahead of Trump in that state.
Have those 3 states closed their polling booths, and we're just having the numbers now? Because there's about 10. There's about 10 states are still open.
So if I just go to what's still left to close, okay, what's the time in
But of
the
those
US?
3 you mentioned, they have closed.
So
we're just getting the numbers now, right?
So it's 10 p.m. Eastern time, which means Montana is like in 1 minute. In 1 minute, Montana, Nevada, and Utah will close.
Yep.
And those will all be so Montana and Utah are going to be automatically red. There's no path for Harris there. Nevada is the only swing state. However, so Nevada is the one to watch now. But I mean, it's six electoral college points. It's not going to tip it for Trump because he's already got enough. If he just wins one of the Rust Belt 3, like if he was to win Nevada at this stage and Arizona, of course, which should be putting some info soon. But if he wins, once he wins Arizona, the 6 points from Nevada is only going to get him to 268, which is that's a loss by one vote, electoral college vote. So he needs 260. So you need 270 to win. 269 is a tie. 268 is a loss by 1. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So Arizona, is there any reporting out of Arizona? Let me just come back to the map. No, nothing. So interestingly, the turnout and Arizona and Florida give really good, like for Florida it's every 10 minutes and for Arizona it's every hour or so. They give good data on the numbers of people coming into precincts. It's the only 2 states that are really good like that. Arizona had, let me go to the state. It had the bluest. Trump was winning the bluest county, which is Pinal County. He was winning Pinal County, which is amazing. He's probably going to win Maricopa. So these are the Phoenix counties: is Maricopa and Pinal, and he was winning Pinal on election day vote by something like I think he was 70%. by almost the afternoon there. So there's some this is one that it's not going to be about whether he wins Arizona, it's by how much he wins Arizona. Nevada, yeah. So Nevada, you can watch it just for interest. What happens in Nevada is going to be indicative of margins that he's going to be getting in Oregon and California, maybe. But again, so Pennsylvania has just tipped red in the shading, so it's just shaded red now, and that's 42% in. There's a 14,000 vote margin Trump has, but again, too early to know what's happening. A lot of these rurals, one of the interesting things to look at this time is they've made a real push for the Amish vote. The Amish vote isn't really a big thing, but there's like 100,000 Amish in Pennsylvania, and I know that Trump made a big play for them.
Interesting.
They don't turn out much, but there was a big push for the Amish vote. So the Amish could, like, if there's a small victory for Trump in Pennsylvania, I know that some of the better, more credible, like Atlas Polling and People's Pundit, these polling were some of the most accurate in 2020, 2016. They have Trump winning by 2 to 3 points in Pennsylvania, which will be quite good. So the Amish will be a part of that win, I think. So I'm just looking at some of those Amish counties, and he's up in many of those places, those Amish-leaning counties. Like in Philadelphia, look at Philadelphia County, which is where Philadelphia urban area is. Trump was only coming in about 8% in 2020, and he's at 18% with 29% of the vote in. That means that two things are happening. You've got a depressed urban turnout, and there has been what has been reported, which is a swing of black men to Trump. That's what has been in all the polling. There's a swing of black men to Trump, and that seems to be indicated, in these results. 18%. That's an incredible result for Bucks County. He's at 42%. Montgomery, he's at that. Yeah, that one's very close to voting like Philadelphia, but he's at 29%. I think he's probably overperforming by about 8 points there as well. Chester County, he's at 43% in Chester County. So this is going to have an impact on down ballot as well. So we're already seeing. Let me just go to the Senate race again. Not the Senate, the House races. So in the House races, I'm curious. New Hampshire, he's overperformed well in New Hampshire. Not enough to get a victory, but I think he lost by 10 points in 2020. So where he's running now in New Hampshire is he's running at 8 points behind. So only 8 points behind, which might sound like a lot, but that's 25,000 votes because it's a smaller state. So if I go to the House races just to have a look there.
Just do that, and we'll bring some comments and questions in for you to reply.
Go on.
No, you do. You finish.
No. So we haven't got enough to really know what the Houses are doing, but they're doing really well there.
Now, I've just thought of a good idea if you're up for it. After we've finished our Reinder Bruinsma conversation, which will be in 1 hour from now, everybody, tune back in. We've got a very special interview with Reinder Bruinsma. We're going to be chatting about how his talk on Catholicism that was to be held at Loma Linda, because he's kind of leans a little bit to trying to build the bridges there. Allegedly, Ted Wilson cancelled him from that particular location, and he had to move. So that is going to be very, very interesting conversation. So that's in 1 hour from now. But here's my suggestion, if you're up for it, Brendan.
Yep.
Because I'm enjoying how you're just stating the facts. You're just talking it through. You're not showing a bias there. How about we come back at 5 o'clock Australian time, 10 o'clock Pacific time, and see where we're up to. We'll do another extra show today.
Yep. I'm happy for that.
So keep an eye out for that. I'll say farewell to Brendan now, but I've just had a lot of good comments coming through, thanking you for your insights there and just for being able to pull together some of these numbers. And we'll get you back. So if you're watching,
It might be a post-mortem by that stage, depending
how
on...
interesting. Yeah. How interesting will that be?
Yes.
I just can't let it go today. I want to know.
It's
So
definitely more important. More interesting than Australian politics, which is just a revolving door of prime ministers and parties.
And it doesn't even really matter.
And nothing happens. Yeah, nothing. I don't think we've had anything happen since Rudd Mark 1. You know, I don't think any significant policy achievements have occurred on either side since Rudd did his national sorry. You know, like he did that.
A quick jump in there. A few people have commented and sent messages to say congratulations on your recent, you and Alina getting ordained into the Southern, what is it? The
Southern Cross Association of Churches. I did put a link on.
Yes, I've been following that up to see if Voice Life Fellowship can become a part of that group as well.
They can. Home groups can. So, you know,
brilliant. Well,
might have ordained Pastor Peter Dixon soon.
I'll nominate some people that do good gospel programs.
Maybe Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian can, and I think Frank and Mike Colburn. There's a few there. Tyler Morgan. Okay, so we'll say farewell to you for now, but just a quick recap on that. In 1 hour, I've got Reinder Bruinsma. He can only chat for an hour and a half today. So soon after that, we'll aim for 5 our time.
I'll see you at 5 then.
And we'll catch you then. Thanks, Brendan, and see you soon.
Blessings.
We'll look forward to that.
Bye for
see
now.
you in a couple of hours. So that's Brendan Valiant there, and we'll get him back. Now, we're going to wrap up today, but there's some interesting comments I'll just quickly bring on the screen. Cindy has written, has anyone chatted about mail-in ballots? I should have asked Brendan while he was there. And Random T Chance has just said, enjoying the show. Cindy mentions that there's a large number of Muslim, a large population of Muslims in the Detroit and Dearborn area. Barbara says she is going to be very surprised by Michigan's results. I don't really know this story, but I've heard it pop up here and there. Justice for Peanut the Squirrel and Fred. Can you just share a bit more of what that is, Random T? And Rochelle writes, if you're in a state that's still open and haven't voted yet, go and vote. Fred Carson writes, Fred Carson. Fred Simmons writes, Dr. Ben Carson and Justice Clarence Thomas are fat cats and forget what racism is, and this forgetfulness has infected that community. Yeah. Ohio just won Trump, Montana and Utah. And this is interesting, Matthew. I'm appreciating your thoughts here. Look out for the metropolitan area dumps. As I mentioned, we're going to do the Bruinsma one, and then we're going to come back on after that around 10 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Australia, and we're going to see what is going on. I reckon between now and then, in 2-3 hours, there's going to be a lot of information, particularly validating what you're pointing out there, Matthew. Yeah, Barry wrote, I didn't know Brendan was an expert on US elections. And Matthew says it's too early to say overperform. So so Matthew, are you suggesting that that Kamala will kind of have a little bit more a positive stance? Okay, we're going to revert over here now to see what's happening with our Aussie
Georgia is getting to 81.5% counted. It is still too early to call. Donald Trump is 5%. So as we've been discussing, that margin as the count comes in has been shrinking, but shrinking relatively slowly. We've been talking about how Kamala Harris is sort of making up small amounts of ground in the southern counties south of Atlanta, but this is becoming this game of inches. Joe Biden won it by 11,779 votes. She's picking up a little bit here, but the problem for Kamala Harris is she's losing it here. Not by lots, by a little bit. Let's have a look at, say, Fulton County, 81.9% counted. She's winning it by 44 points. Joe Biden won it by 46.4 points. So an inch on the margin, but this county is huge, hundreds of thousands of votes, and there are still plenty more to come in, and that helps Donald Trump stay ahead when you're looking at that sort of very thin margin that's being defended. Similar story in places like DeKalb County, 67% was what Joe Biden won a margin. Actually, Kamala Harris, see, the numbers are changing constantly, but 65.7 there. Gwinnett County as well, 21.6. The numbers are flip-flopping. There we go. These are all changing as we look at them, but Fulton County is the biggest of those. That is a little bit of a worry for her. We are seeing, continuing to get more and more counts, more and more votes coming in. And at the moment, if it continues the way it's going, we'll have a look at what's just changed in those two counties, but if it continues the way it's going and has been going, you'd project Donald Trump to stay ahead of Kamala Harris at this point. And that would mean he would take it. Now, we're not saying he will take it, but I think we can now pretty clearly say at this point that Donald Trump would be the favourite in Georgia. He's certainly ahead. Similar kind of story in North Carolina. So if we have a look at this map, looking at the pathways that both of these candidates have, these are the numbers that we've definitely got in either side's camp. Let's just add back in those seats that lean one way or the other, where we're yet to see any surprises. And we've got those 7 battleground states. If I hypothetically, and I stress hypothetically, pop both of those two in Donald Trump's column, that would get him to 251, and then it really becomes all about those 3 states. And I'll remind you, if Kamala Harris sweeps the 3, she does win. She gets to 270. So all those three states are the deciding factor. And if they end up split, we end up looking over here at Nevada and Arizona as well. Let me just very quickly have a look at Pennsylvania as well, just to show you how close these are. Kamala Harris was ahead a short time ago. Now Donald Trump is ahead by 2 percentage points. We have a near complete count in the county that contains Scranton, Joe Biden's birthplace, hometown. Kamala Harris is winning it by 3.1%. Joe Biden, the hometown hero, won it by 8.4%. So the Democrats have gone backwards a little bit there. Still too early to say too much about Pennsylvania. We've got half the vote in, but we're getting a patchy picture of what kinds of votes are in. And the last thing I should do is take you to the state of Colorado, because we can now say Colorado has been won by Kamala Harris. Associated Press has just projected that as well. So that's another 10 Electoral College votes we can put in Kamala Harris's column.
Wow.
Casey, thank you. One thing we can reliably
finish with their summary here,
those swing
and they'll
states
say farewell
are
for now.
crucial in this count, Arizona being one of them. Now, Arizona's been at the front line of that debate about border control and immigration because it sits right on that border with Mexico. How are you seeing that play out?
I think immigration is a massive issue there, and something the Democrats are really going to have to reckon with, how strong, strenuous action people want on immigration. We've got to remember, though, Arizona has been long a Republican stronghold. There was Barry Goldwater, the father of modern conservatism, some call him there, and of course John McCain. So in the last 70 years, it's gone to Bill Clinton took it in '96, and it did narrowly go to Joe Biden. But we've got to remember that Donald Trump had really insulted Senator John McCain. Remember, he'd called him a loser for being tortured in Vietnam, and that didn't go down very well with that electorate there. A man who was very well respected for his kind of very calm, polite, respectful demeanour.
Right across the aisle, right?
Right across. So that could be one of the factors. But, you know, it is the fastest growing state in the country, particularly with the Hispanic population, and that's significantly going to shift things. And we also have to remember that only 29% of the registered voters in that state are Democrat. So it's uphill battle for Kamala Harris there.
David, I'm reading some Trump voter quotes. So many people saying that
Okay, well, we will leave it there, and thank you everyone for watching. That last little bit there was what I was hoping would be coming through more often, but it's as the data is coming in now that it's starting to get very interesting. So we will be back. We'll have our interview in 45 minutes. It's a real SDA Q&A day today. And tomorrow we've got Giles James on, Jimmy James, and then the next day our gospel program is with Tyler Morgan. So it's an SDA Q&A big week, and we've got Viking has just written, just stopping in to say hi. It's good numbers so far. I'll be back later for the second half. So after Bruinsma, we will be back. Rick is watching. Hey, Rick, good to see you here from Quebec. And got some conversations about Peanut the squirrel. And Rochelle, anybody else going to load up with snacks to come back? So yeah, that'll be we'll aim to come back around 5 Australian time, which will be, oh goodness me, I'm confused. Anyway, you work it out. A couple of hours from now, we'll be back. Bring your snacks. Don't forget the Bruinsma program, though. That's going to be fascinating. And it won't be a very long one. It'll only go for about an hour. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a little lie down if you can. Get some snacks. And Matthew has said, this is a good one to end it on. We'll need the gospel after a week like this. Yes, we will. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you again in 45 minutes for Bruinsma, Rainder Bruinsma. And he may be stirring out of bed now. It'll only be 5 a.m. his time. And then we're going to come back here and chat again about the results. In 2 hours, there's going to be a whole lot more. Anyway, see you guys. You're awesome. Thanks for keeping the spirit of common ground finding reasonably intact. See you soon.